fellow followers. Welcome back to FanZcene. Today with me is Tom Seymour. Seymour, right? Seymour, yeah. I said it wrong. Welcome, Tom Seymour. He is the director of VHS Massacre, VHS Massacre 2, and he's been doing this really great series on his channel about $500 indie filmmaking. Let's talk a little bit about that, Tom.
Yeah. So it was, it's called the $500 feature film, and basically it's about it focuses on documentary filmmaking and how you can do that basically for nothing. But then also it goes into narrative filmmaking. And so if you can imagine, you can make a feature film for as little as $500, but it'll go into like a solid $5,000 to $6,000 horror feature, and then even up to about a $15,000 like adventure film. And it kind of, what I tried to do is just go through the nuts and bolts of how to actually plan it and pull it off. And then I'm always referencing the distribution side of it, because I feel like not everyone always knows the business end of the sort of the end game of what to do with your film, you know?
See, that's something I'm interested into, because as my channel has grown and is still growing, I wouldn't say I'm huge, but it's something I'm wanting to expand on, and filmmaking is something I want to do. I've made documentaries for my channel. You're in one of my upcoming documentaries I'm making, and I eventually would like to at least put those documentaries or whatever I start to make in the future, get them distributed. Mm-hmm. So that's something I'm still very naive on. And so if you want to talk a little bit about that, how filmmakers can get their films distributed.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's funny because there's over time, the sort of film world is slowly pushing into the sort of YouTube world,
Yeah. It's weird.
As a matter of fact, YouTube is the dominating one, and the film industry, the studio film industry, is actually the shrinking one. It's very interesting. Yeah. But there still is a bit of a separate track with independent films. And you do have people like James Rolfe from Massacre, he was this big YouTube personality, but then made the Angry Video Game Nerd movie.
Yeah.
And I think for the most part, that was, they had it on like Vimeo on a paywall. So I think for the most part, he was going direct to the public, at least in the beginning. And then later it popped up on Prime and things like that. So they probably signed a streaming deal after that. But in general, let's say you made a feature-length film. Let's say you spent a year or two on it. It's not necessarily the best thing to do is just dump it on YouTube and cross your fingers. Yeah. Because you may find it doesn't, it's not the perfect avenue for your film. And so there's this whole separate world of film distribution, independent film distribution, and that still requires researching companies that put out films that sort of match what your film is. You want to go after appropriate matches. Mm-hmm. So I remember I was starting out in the film industry, and it was like I would just pick it was like early internet, so you'd be looking through books trying to find distributors, and you'd be writing to them. And you'd find as many as you could, but often they were total mismatches, putting your B movie, trying to get it distributed by some like place that puts out historic, documentaries,
Yeah.
So but there are a number of companies that are still out there that take, I would call no budget films. And I think that is something like under 200,000, maybe under 100,000 is unfortunately you call that no budget. It's absolutely ridiculous.
I know, it's crazy today.
Yeah, but something like if you scrape together 10 grand, which I think is a lot of money, it's like I could totally do a film for that, and people call that no budget, which is crazy.
That's what I could do with 10 grand. If I had 10 grand to make a film, I could make something crazy, sleazy, beezy, man. I would go nuts. I would love to do that.
Yeah, and you probably put the money into the stuff that would you know, it would be on screen, you know, the blood
Yeah,
and the guts and
everything.
all that stuff.
The blood,
Yeah.
the guts, the boobs, everything. It would all be in there. And, you know, not a dime would be unaccounted for the movie. It would all be for the movie.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, that's good to know because like yeah, with my documentaries I do here on my channel, I feel like you know they are actual films I make, you know,
Yep.
but I put them on YouTube and eventually I would like to you know I have to go back and get some approval from the cast and everything if I want to sell them and everything because that's something we gotta plan for. You gotta have you know your T's and I's crossed and dotted and everything to make
Oh
sure
yeah.
everything's legal.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
a big part of it too.
yeah,
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 just have all the paperwork prepared. And a lot of it has to do with like, so like just for example, let's say you sent your film off to even with the first VHS Massacre, I sent a Blu-ray off. I was still sending a physical disc off to potential distributors.
yeah.
And then so they're going to look at it and they're going to see if it's insurable. There's this thing called E&O insurance, errors and omissions insurance. And so if you submit the film, they have to see all your paperwork. I mean, obviously it's all digital now, but
Yeah.
and if they look at that and the company says, yeah, this was responsibly made, then some of those distribution companies have their own. That's something they would typically do for the movie. They'll pay for errors and omissions insurance, and it's mostly to cover their ass, you know.
Yeah.
So yes, that's kind of why you need to have the paperwork trail. If you're putting it out purely by yourself, then you know that's up to you. But it's still a very responsible thing to just
to make sure you have it all. Yeah, because
Yeah.
that's something I would like to do. I would like to eventually, you know, once I get everything to where I need it to be, maybe put these documentaries I make for my YouTube channel in some form of physical media distributed or something somehow.
Yeah.
You know, because I think they're pretty good personally, but I made them. You know, that's me. And yeah, so that's something I'm really interested because there's a lot of people that watch my channel because it's physical media here is like the number one topic, but I like to cover film and multiple other subjects on my channel. I don't want to just be the one guy that, you know, just one subject. So that's why I like having you on here. And there's a lot of people that watch my channel that are up and coming filmmakers or indie filmmakers and stuff. And you know, if you have any advice for them, you know, besides what we've talked through, just let it all out because you've done pretty well. For your VHS Massacre 1 and 2, and then your new one, Exorcist of Fleetwood Marish. So any advice to anybody out there that just maybe didn't go to film school or just maybe just has that itch?
Yeah. Well, I think we need more movies. We need more no budget movies from sort of like middle class filmmaker, you know, whatever, lower class and middle class filmmakers, but less elite sort of $300 million films. Like there's plenty of that crap. Like we can. So I mean, it's pretty pointed, but I would make a horror film. I would make a horror feature.
Right.
And then the secondary option would be to do what you're doing is a special interest documentary. And the reason why I would recommend those two is that there's a market for it. There's a thirst for it. And so, you know, as long as you're not betraying what you'd want to do, like if you just as easily like to make a horror movie over like a drama, I think do yourself a favor and go with the horror movie because horror is pretty forgiving. I've said this before, but if you can imagine, like watching a bad drama is rough.
Yeah.
But watching a bad horror movie is fine. You know, and you know, it's bad horror is almost as good as good horror, you know. So,
yeah. I agree. I totally like with the special because you could tell people put in, you know, effort into it, like with the blood and the gore and everything and other stuff. So yeah.
And also too, in regard to distribution and how to market horror, you know, horror is a smaller community than you would think. You know, a lot of these people go to the same conventions. They're on the same social media circles. And, you know, you have a plan of attack. Even if you wanted to, let's say, make your own movie, print your own DVD or Blu-ray, and just go around and sell them, you could do the convention circuit. You know, you could go to tables, rent out tables and do that, you know. And then there's distributors there too. Just in regard to, I'm using that film Exorcism of Fleet Marish. It's a horror movie, and I put it out to this company called MVD, It's NVD Group, and that stands for Music Video Distribution. That's how they started out, and they actually do a lot of physical media releases and stuff like that. But they're a great company, and they're sort of an in between. So like, you put your film on there, they take a percentage, but you actually get even if it's a little amount of money, they pay per quarter. You know, so unlike some other distribution companies, which typically you'd sign a deal where it's like, hey, we need to make 25 grand back, and once we make 25 grand or break even, then we'll start giving you half the revenue. There's nothing wrong with that kind of deal. It just, if they're a company, a brick and mortar company trying to stay in business, they may never reach that threshold. It's just no. So you do have to be careful about signing bad deals and all that. But I think you kind of have to, you know, never spend any money you don't have,
right?
Or that you don't spend money you cannot afford to do. Just figure out a way to do it for free, you know, because
it connections like I do with you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because it's. I'm not trying to be a negative, but it's just not. You're still an artist, so the odds of you like making a ton of money doing these little films, it's a long shot, but most people do it because they love it. And but there are people that do break through, you know. So that's something. That Toxic Avenger remake's coming out.
Yeah.
And that's Macon Blair directed that. And I remember watching Blue Ruin, which he was an actor in, and but I think it was him and just a few people made that film. And I think it was about $100,000 film. I could be wrong on that, but so there's definitely indie filmmakers that break through. So it can be done.
It can be done. It can happen. I mean, James Gunn.
Yeah, exactly.
And that brings us up to what I'm working on. I guess we can say me and you are sort of together. You're a little bit of a producer on it. The importance of independent film. It's a documentary I'm working on, and this is one I'm really excited for. This is one I may have to go back through and try to actually distribute after I release it or something.
Yeah, you
really do. Yeah, because this one I'm feeling this one. I'm really feeling this one. And so I want to get some of your thoughts on independent film, because, you know, with everything going on in the world of entertainment today, what do you think about independent film, how it is, not to spoil a lot what's going to happen in the documentary with what you're going to say, but how do you feel about the importance of independent film?
It's definitely more important than ever. I mean, it's never great when the counter, I think of this sort of B-movie and horror movie scene as sort of counterculture. So you have mainstream culture, and then there's the counterculture, companies like Troma, which I'm a big fan of.
Me too.
So you think of it in regard to how healthy is the counterculture. It's that even if you disagree with the counterculture, it's not good if it's weakened. Like what that means is you have like totally homogenized mainstream, you know? So independent filmmakers are the ones that go out and they make new things, they push limits, they take risks. A lot of it's bad, but some of it's great. And there really is the net gain of people like you and I and other filmmakers throwing the spaghetti against the wall and trying to make something. It ends up being way more important than you'd think of. You know, just think of if there's 1,000 movies and 10 of them are brilliant. First of all, Hollywood's going to steal those ideas. Hopefully, they'll take a few of those filmmakers and bring them into the mainstream. But I think, especially with the strikes and all that stuff, maybe independent filmmakers are getting just a little dash of attention, you know. And I don't want to get into the union stuff too much, but I was never allowed in any of those unions, so. You know, it was never like I never had an option. It's like I never got invited to be in the directors union or the editors union or any of that stuff. So I'm kind of like, well, you guys never wanted me anyway, so I'm just gonna make my movies.
I'm with you. I'm like, you don't have to agree with everything. The counterculture is there for a reason. I mean, there's people that are on each side of the aisle here making movies. They want to make art. You know, it doesn't matter who you are, and if they just work together, I guarantee you, you know, you can make something crazy. And yeah, like you said, you're not on none of those committees or anything like that as well. So yeah, I agree with you. I think we need more people out there making movies, giving it a shot. It's time to change the landscape a little bit. Let's be honest. You know, things aren't doing so well even in the mainstream anymore. I mean, you like almost every summer movie that came out this year flopped. Almost every single one of them. It's because people are tired of these movies and what's being put into these movies. And they're not being done for artistic or creative reasons, or they're not making the small budget films like they used to make. It's everything is $300-400 million, like you said, bloated budgets, and it's bowing down to committees. Because, you know, so many people, oh, no, you can't put this in here because it's got to go over here. No, you can put this because it's got to release over here. So it's people like you said, like us on YouTube. It's like it's coming back to YouTube. We need to start changing the landscape a little bit and putting out the entertainment we want to see.
Yeah, and I think, you know, you have to. I think the average person has to sort of adjust their way they view cinema. You know, like, because there are people who will not watch a $10,000 film. Like, they'll be like, I'm not doing this, you know?
Yeah.
So it does require a little, you know, faith from the like a normal human being to just say, I'm going to watch this homemade movie sort of thing.
Yeah.
But and the other side of that, I mean, some of the Marvel movies look terrible.
Yeah,
they look awful. I mean, $300 million, and it just looks like just the background's just blurry CGI garbage, you know. And
the CGI is so much worse than it was like 10 years ago.
yeah. Like I was watching. I'm not even recommending it. It's a Sean Connery film called In the Name of the Rose. It was like a medieval movie. Everyone's dirty. It's really like disgusting, you know. And he plays a Franciscan monk. But like I had a real reaction because those were all real sets. It was a real castle, and the set design was amazing. There's this library labyrinth at the end, and I had such a like. I don't even know if I liked that movie, but I had a response to it because they were really in those environments, you know, and it just, I don't have that connection with most of the mainstream stuff.
Most mainstream movies, it's just like, it's content. That's what it's content for content's sake. It's nothing. It's not made for entertainment purposes. It's made for the money. Almost all movies are pretty much made for money. That's what I mean. That's why you get some of the people get into it to make money. But like you said, on smaller budget films, you're not really going to make money, you know. But you can. It can happen. You know. But you got to do it because you love it. And it's just like these movies today. You can tell they don't love it. It's just being put out there to earn that quick buck and then on to the next. You can't remember them. You like you said, the CGI and the blurry backgrounds are just awful. It's just like they come and they go and they're forgotten. They're not like the movies like we used to get as a kid. Like you just saw that Sean Connery movie. It left an impression on you. That's why I find myself going more back towards older movies or B movies or sleazy movies that I missed as a kid or I kind of remember, because I find so much more entertainment. I get more of a reaction watching them, and more enjoyment, plain and simple, you know?
Yeah, there is something to that. Like it sounds kind of masochistic, but the sort of seeing how the real environments wear on the performers. If you've ever seen The Sorcerer, the William Friedkin movie, like they're miserable. Like they're really in that environment. Those actors are miserable, but it makes it more real, you know. And same thing with 13th Warrior, which I'm a huge fan of.
Love that movie.
Especially at the end, they are just you can tell it's cold and it's miserable, but it just adds so much to the realism. And most of the movies you see now, it's like everyone's makeup is perfect. Everyone's got wigs. Like, I don't know what happened. Like, just like 10 years ago, it's like everyone needs a fucking wig always. Yeah, and you could always tell, you know. And so I don't know. I just the production design, most of it's crummy, and they never look like they're in the environments, and they never look like, you could even take Die Hard and look at how beat up Bruce Willis looks in that
Yeah.
original Die Hard, and you're like, this is great,
Yeah. If
And
you believe it.
Yeah.
The thing is, like, you believe it, even though you know what you're watching is fake. He really didn't step on glass and cut his feet up.
Right.
You know that, but he looks it. He looks like it's just like wore him down. He's been in this building. He's beating the crap out of these terrorists, and he's just fucking done.
Yeah.
And you believe it. You believe it. And today you see like Chris Evans as Captain America. What's the Captain America movies are pretty good, but you see him in like the new stuff. And it's like he doesn't give a care. He's just like, it's not even him. They CGI'd his face on somebody else while he's moving around.
Right.
You don't even believe it anymore. At least with like Bruce Willis's or even like William Shatner's stunt double, who you clearly was not William Shatner. You still bought that was William Shatner. You still thought that was him.
Yeah. And then like if you look at The Flash and they like
oh yeah, God.
How they brought in was it General Zod? It was like, what the hell was that? And like,
it's like CGI face on some dude.
Yeah, I mean, $300 million on that thing.
Yeah, probably more if we're honest.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, at least 50 million more, probably.
Yeah. You don't feel it anymore in movies today. It's just pure content. And that's why I like independent film. I can sit through a low budget $10,000 film or a straight to video film because I enjoy it. I believe it. You see the sets are real. You see somebody had passion. Somebody was trying something, whether it turns out to be a good movie or not. They tried it, and it feels real.
Yeah, and that $500 feature series. One of the things I was pushing was this 11-day shoot. And I call it like a normal human being's film shoot because it would require 1 week off from work.
Yeah.
So you're shooting Saturday, Sunday, you take Monday through Friday off, and then you shoot on the other Saturday, Sunday. That's 9 days. And then when you're recovered, because that's going to be brutal, like a month later, you shoot a full weekend, Saturday, Sunday. And that's 11 days. And you could absolutely do a horror movie in that. And I would recommend don't write a 90-page script. Write like an 80, like 75, 80.
Short film.
Yeah, yeah. So anything over an hour is a feature, and you can get at least 5 minutes out of credits. So shoot a 75-minute movie, 5 minutes of credits. That's an hour and 20. It's great. And with the companies, I've never seen. They'll take an 80-minute movie. There's no issue with that. So they don't, especially with modern streaming, the rules have been kind of relaxed. But if it's under an hour, that's technically not a feature, and they may have trouble like knowing what to do with it. Yeah. So just make it. I don't know. I would say for me, I think over 70 minutes is safe zone. That's my recommendation, It
works. Yeah, like what Charles Band is doing with The Full Moon. Like he's like 10-minute movies lately. He's not making them as long as they used to, but hey, they're still pretty good. I mean,
if you look at the history of film, like Boris Karloff, Frankenstein, I think that's 72 minutes. Bela Lugosi, Ape Man is like 68, and there's even movies like Phone Booth, Joel Schumacher, I think it was 80. Yeah. There's probably hundreds of movies that are between 70 and 80 minutes. It's not something that's common in theatrical recently. Yeah. They seem to be obsessed.
I know. I was about to say I miss those 80 to 90-minute movies. I've been talking about does every movie have to be 3 hours long? Do we need a 3-hour-long version of Five Nights at Freddy's? That's a horror movie. That should be 90 minutes.
Yeah. Come on. Yeah. It's not Shakespeare. Come on.
Exactly. Come on. But I totally get it. Yeah, that's something Hollywood really needs to get back into. And I think there's like tons of people like myself, yourself included. We could probably knock out a good 80 to 90-minute movies for these people and make money for them. But they're not interested in that. So that's why I said we have to change the landscape. We have to, push that limit, do it ourselves, and hopefully we can succeed. If not, we're doing it because we love it, like you said.
Yeah. So I think if you try hard enough, especially now, there's a lot of different options, you can have, you know, maybe you have your, you don't get your A list of distributors, but maybe you get your B or your C, and then there's even backup plans for that. You can make a go of it on your own if you need to. So
Yeah.
You can get it out there. What I want to say is that horror film, Exorcism of Fleet Marish, which is like 71 minutes, by the way. I had a cut of that was a little longer, and I was like, nah, I'm gonna keep honing it in. But that it was distributed by MVD, but they signed a deal with this thing called Horror Central. I don't know if you heard of it, but it's like free movies. They have like Horror Central, Documentary Central, like Action Central or whatever. So it's a company that basically decided to use the sort of infrastructure of YouTube and other social media to just put their movies on there. So, and initially I saw Exorcism of Fleet Marish on there, and I was like, I don't know if this is legit. And I looked, and it was like, this is legitimately licensed. And then I looked, and it was like 72,000 people watched Exorcism of Fleet Marish. And I was like, that's kind of awesome, you know? Yeah. So YouTube is changing a little bit, you know what I mean? So I do think you definitely have to still go through the right venues, because I could not go directly to Horror Central and say, please take my movie. I had to go through a company like NVD, because NVD is going to say, hey, we'll give you 200 titles. We'll sell 300 titles to you.
Yeah. And
so these big companies work in bulk, you know, and that can be good or bad, because that's why the VHS Massacre docs got like everywhere, is because it was Trauma sold like a licensed a bulk of films to this other company. I think it was called FilmRise, and then they put it out, you know. So it's pretty fascinating how it works.
Yeah, that sounds cool. I mean, that's something I definitely want to look into. Something I want to do. It's something when I started my YouTube channel, it started as a hobby. Because like I always tell people, don't do a YouTube channel thinking you're going to make money, because YouTube doesn't really pay a whole lot unless you become a really pretty good sized channel. So I'm trying to get there maybe. But when I started, it was just a hobby, and then I've slowly built up an audience and a fan base, which is weird for me to, like, a kid from a small town, rural town, actually have fans, because I'm just a nerd over movies. I like talking movies. That's weird to have fans, to be on YouTube and have fans.
That's cool.
It's really weird. But like the more I got into it, I'm like, maybe I can finally make those movies I always wanted to make as a kid. Because I grew up poor. I never really got to make movies. Like, you hear, like, oh, we got our video camera, we made movies and stuff. No, I mean, me and my brother shot one movie one time with our VHS camera that we had, and then it broke.
Yep.
So I never really got to experience that. And I've always wanted to make movies. And I've thought to myself, maybe, just maybe now where I'm at, maybe I can. Maybe I can, you know? And
you can, yeah.
Yeah, so, and I'm starting with these documentaries I'm doing on my channel. I think that gives me practice and help, and it's stuff I really want to explore and cover and share with the world. And I get to meet people like you and get to talk and learn, and that's fun. That's fun.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for me too, man. Yeah, this is cool. This big fan of your YouTube channel and your shows and stuff. So yeah, it's good stuff, and I'm glad that you're taking off. You know, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm hoping. I'm really, there's work that goes into it, and regardless, if I make something and I put it out and it gets 5 views or 1,000 views, whatever, at least somebody's watching it. 5 views. So that's 5 people that never watched me before that watched my video. So that makes me happy.
Yeah, so. Yeah, and I always try to conceptualize it like, imagine it was a live venue. Let's say you do a video and you get 100 views. You're like, yeah, but that's 100 people. I mean, imagine that in like a theater, 100 people. That's still cool. Like,
yeah, it's good. Yeah, I mean, it's nothing mainstream, big, fancy, but you've reached somebody. Like I said, it's like you got a fan, and it's weird to be like a normal person who has a fan. Yeah. And it's like, oh, that's cool. But I thank you for your time. I thank you for being here. I'm glad to have you on board for my the importance of independent film documentary I'm making. Cannot wait to get that fully edited. I got some surprises coming. Nothing I want to say yet. Nothing I want to say yet. But I'm looking forward to getting that made and get it out there. I appreciate you for your time. Is there anything you want to say before we close it out here?
No, just yeah, I think the doc's gonna be great, and thanks for having me on the show. And yeah, check out Exorcism of Fleet Marish on Horror Central, which is on YouTube and it's free.
All right, there you go. And I will put a link to your channel down below so people can go watch your $500 documentary things you're doing, because those are really cool. I think those are a great tool for up and coming filmmakers, because like I said, if you guys are watching this, you're a filmmaker and you want to learn, watch his stuff. Watch his stuff. There you go. But thank you once again, Tom, for being here. To everybody watching, thank you all for watching wherever you all are. Please have a great, safe, happy, healthy day, morning, afternoon, evening, and night. Like, share, subscribe, and remember, physical media is the superior format. Godspeed.